Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Cooking with Kibby Live. My name is Chef Kibby. I want to welcome everybody here, and thank you to the fine folks here at Sumitomo. I wanted to make sure, I was practicing all morning to make sure I didn't say Moriroku, because I do things at both places. So thank you so much for inviting me here, those who are involved with the health and wellness team here at Sumitomo. My name, again, is Chef Kibby. And I'm guessing that since we are in the break room here at Sumitomo, that there's a great number of you who are going to be back in this room in about 2.5 hours. Am I right? And most of you, when you get here, are not going to be thinking to themselves, oh, it's lunchtime, what do I do now? Either you're going to be heading off somewhere to one of the local restaurants for lunch, or you're going to have lunch catered in. If you're ever interested in something like that, please come and see me after the presentation, because I might be able to hook you up with something like that. Otherwise, the vast majority of you have already packed something to eat for lunch. And if you're like most people, packing lunch can seem to get, it can be stressful, it can get monotonous. You can kind of get into a rut in the kind of things that you're packing for yourself at lunch. And you're just looking to breathe some new life into your lunchbox. If that's something that's interesting to you, hopefully you are paying attention today, because today I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of bento, or the Japanese lunchbox, okay? So before I go any further, my name is Chef Kibby. The name of my business is Cookin with Kibby. I do catered events, as many of you already experienced. I met quite a few of you here a few weeks ago at the annual holiday lunch right here in this room. Hopefully you enjoyed that experience. Yes, I see a few heads shaking. Okay. Just trying to ease my nerves here just a little bit, right? I also do live cooking demonstrations. If you ever see me out here at the Union County Farmers Market, chances are you'll be seeing me again there later this summer doing some wellness demonstrations like the one you're going to experience here this morning. I also do hands-on kitchen sessions for those of you who are looking to up your home cooking game and want a really fun and interactive, enjoyable way of doing that. Okay? You can find me at cookinwithkibby.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Sorry, no Snapchat. I may look young, but I'm not that young. I can't figure it out, can you? All right, so does anybody do bento? Has anybody had bento? Anybody? There should be a couple of hands in here. Okay, so we're gonna go over 3 different sections of this demonstration this morning. The first part, we're going to talk about kind of the history. What is bento? Where did it come from? Some of the changes that it has gone through over the years. Second, we're going to talk about kind of modern bento culture, kind of what it looks like today, and it really is kind of a culture unto itself, okay, if you've ever gotten into it. And then in the third part, we're going to make it really, really practical for everybody here and tell you how we can use bento as a method of inviting new healthy options and healthy choices. Being the new year, we're kind of focusing on health and wellness and how we can make some better choices, and I'm going to show you how you can use bento to help you do that. So first, we're going to talk about the definition and origin. Now, most historians, culinary historians, will say that bento back up a little bit. I'm looking at the next slide. I got to slow down. Okay, so what is bento? Okay, bento, for our purposes today, is going to be defined as a Japanese boxed meal. It's either home packed or taken out or purchased out, for that matter, characterized by the use of a unique compartmentalized travel container that is filled with an assortment of edible items. All right? Now, typically those items include things like a starch, like rice or noodles, some sort of a protein like meat or fish, or sometimes tamago, cooked egg, or tofu for that matter, and then an assortment of raw, cooked, or even pickled vegetables, and sometimes fruit. I mean, typically in Japan you don't see a whole lot of fruit because it's much more expensive than it is here in the States, but that could be included in that as well. Now let's talk about the origins of bento. Culinary historians would say that bento originates sometime during the Kamakura period, almost 1,000 years ago. The term bento itself loosely comes from a maybe perhaps Chinese or a Vietnamese term that loosely translates in English to convenience. So it was convenience food. It looked a lot different almost 1,000 years ago. It started out really as more of a bag than a box. It was a bag of rice that had already been par-cooked and then cooled so that it could be cooked later. You take it with you when you went to work. I believe it was called hoshii was the term for the rice that was par-cooked and then brought out. It was a convenience food, you know? It was like a kamakura rendition of TV dinner. Most of the work had already been done. You just have to finish it when you get to work. All right. Then during that time period, eventually the box did come about as a method of transportation, replacing that bag, and the box itself began being known as bento as well. So bento means both the meal and the box in which it was transported. And that the box showed up probably sometime more around the 16th century. Moving ahead forward a few hundred years into the Edo period, you start seeing things like the koshibento, which translates to waist bento. It's something that would be kind of tacked onto your clothing to take with you. A lot of times it was made out of bamboo leaves. So you'd have a couple of onigiri, which of course is, anybody? Rice balls? It's a tough crowd. It's Tuesday morning, isn't it? Onigiri or rice balls that would be packaged up in some bamboo leaves and then just kind of tucked into your waist to take with you. Also during that time would be the makonuchi bento. Makonochi, it really means intermission. So during the times when people would be going to outdoor performances or plays, you'd have an intermission. Back then, they didn't have a popcorn stand. There wasn't a concession stand at the outdoor theaters during the 16 and 1700s. And so they would bring these ornate boxes of various different ingredients, and they would snack on that during the break in between performances, much like we do today. I haven't seen too many people bringing a bento box into a movie theater, but you might be able to get away with it. Who knows? All right. Moving forward again into the Meiji period is when you start seeing the ekiben. And one of the really interesting things about bento is kind of it shows a little bit of the change of culture and the industrialization of Japan and the rest of the world. And so in that period, you start seeing the ekis, or the train stations. And at those train stations, you have ekiben or ekibento, so bento boxes that could be purchased either before or after a trip. You get on the train, or you're getting off the train. You need something to eat, right? That's where the bentos come in. Forward again into the 20th century, into the Taisho period. Again, more industrialization, more access to different materials. So you start seeing bentos made of aluminum, which have a really unique characteristic to them, in that aluminum has a property of retaining heat, and so you could have a hot side of your bento or a cold side of your bento. So you can keep the hot part in kind of a warmer, and then keep the cold area in a cold box. So, also during that time, you start seeing a little bit more of a shift in Japanese culture as far as the income gap. There seemed to be more of a gap in between the high income and low income, and bento started to become a bit of a status symbol, and it became divisive. And so during that period, in the school systems, they actually outlawed the use of bento during that period, because they wanted to keep everyone a little bit more on an even playing field. That's something that I experienced personally when I was the chef for the headquarters of Honda. When you're at Honda, everyone from top to bottom, they're all wearing the same uniform, and so that tradition of everybody kind of being on the same playing field, that tradition continues to this day. So you don't really see a resurgence in the use of bentos until about the 1980s, which is where we start seeing things of more of the modern bento culture. All right. Moving on to part 2, modern bento culture. All right. Again, with the industrialization and the access to all these new materials, we see a wide variety of different types of bento boxes being created. A lot of you, when you think of bento, you think of these ornate wooden lacquer boxes like the one you see on the screen here. They are reusable. They are, many of them, dishwasher safe as well. Again, modern convenience, great. I talked a little bit about metal compartments that you could keep them in different places if you want to keep hot foods hot or cold foods cold. Also, again, we see the more widespread use of plastics. Plastics for reusable bento boxes, again, that could be dishwasher safe. And then also disposable bentos, very similar to what you see right here, which is almost a similar material to what you get sushi at a sushi market or a grocery store or something like that. Okay, you've probably seen something like that. All right, a few more pictures of some different bentos. Bamboo, another material that is used for making bentos. See that nice strap around the outside. And then that one actually has a satchel or a carrying bag that goes around that, which is actually very similar to what was used in the earlier 20th century. There would be a scarf that they would use to wrap around the bento, and often they were very ornate and beautiful, and so that would be what they would carry their lunchbox in, back before we had the Superman lunchbox, you know, something to brag about. And then you have, again, in the middle, the metal containers, compartments to use, and then also plastics or even glass, so you can actually see what's inside of your bento. A couple more options. We have the plastic layered bento. It has, again, different compartments. That one even has a place for your silverware. That is if you use silverware and not hashi for your bento. And then over on the right, I thought was just a really cute kind of kids bento. Get them started early in understanding the benefits of bento and the compartments, and again, the variety of foods that are placed into that box. Shopping for bento. Yes, you can make your own bentos at home, but it's, again, part of the Japanese bento culture of shopping for bentos. They can be found at specific shops, or bento ya, ya being a suffix of anything, a shop related to that, like a sushi ya is a sushi place, bento ya is a bento store. Convenience stores, also known as konbini, they're short for convenience stores, 7-Eleven. One of the reasons I really want to go back to Japan now that I'm older, I went to Japan when I was about 15. I was 2 weeks shy of my 16th birthday. And back then I really didn't understand or fully appreciate Japanese culture or food for that matter. I was actually a really picky eater when I was young. You might be surprised to know that. But I really want to go back just because I want to go to a 7-Eleven, which the people here in the US, they're like, what's the big deal with the 7-Eleven? From what I've seen on the internet, I see some people shaking their heads. The 7-Eleven in Japan are like nothing we have over here. I mean, it's a cultural experience in and of itself, and in a very good way, as opposed to maybe some of the convenience stores we have over here. But you can find anything there, including a wide assortment of bento. Also, like I mentioned earlier, the train stations, or ekiben. The picture that you have there on the screen, another kind of clever way of presenting food. The ekiben actually looks like the train that they just got off of or are about to get onto, so really clever packaging there. And then also department stores. Imagine a department store where you can get clothing or electronics, and then you go down to the basement, and then there's this huge cafeteria of the nicest sort, and some of the best food that you can find in Japan are in those stores in the department stores. That doesn't look like any 7-Eleven I've been to. So convenience stores like this carry, like I mentioned, a wide variety of food options. Not just bento, but a lot of other really unique things. So something to keep in mind next time you're making a trip, okay? And if you do, take me with you. All right, so artistry. If you do a Google image search on bento, you're gonna find that you're gonna be sucked in for a couple of hours or so, because bento can be a work of art, okay? A couple of different varieties of bento artistry are kyara ben, kyara short for character or character bento, and so typically they will take different food items and shape them or carve them or arrange them in such a way as to resemble a particular character, and whether it be from a manga, which is the Japanese graphic novels and comic strips and cartoons, or from anime, from animated series, or even from video games as well. Those characters from manga and anime and video games are cultural phenomenons, and oftentimes it will make its way into the bento culture as well. And then oekaki meaning a picture, so taking the food and arranging it in such a way as to create a beautiful picture, usually something of an outdoor landscape or something like that, or maybe of animals. As you can see, I see a little ladybug kind of hiding in the grass there in that particular bento. Don't worry, I only have one other slide. I could have filled the rest of this presentation with cute bento pictures. I think we have a little koala bear and then some pandas and some cute little piggies. Looks too cute to eat, right? But if I were hungry, I'd eat it. I'm not gonna lie. All right, part 3. Here's where we get to the real important part here. Using bento to promote healthy eating habits, okay? Many of you might think, yes, it's a box with compartments. It's really not that much different from a regular lunchbox, or the lunchboxes that we're accustomed to here in the States. But those compartments can really change your mindset and your outlook and your approach to packing your lunch. And let's talk a little bit about why. First of all is portion control. Now you see on the screen, these are the My Plate daily recommendations. These are the recommendations that are sent down from on high, from our U.S. federal government, telling us what we should be putting into our bodies on a daily basis. So you see things like protein, about 5 to 6 ounces. Now, I remind you, that's a daily recommendation. I think I get more than that in just one meal. But 5 to 6 ounces of protein, trying to keep towards more lean proteins such as chicken or tofu or even nuts. 3 to 4 ounces of grains. You want to try to keep those to whole grains, like your whole grain rice, whole grain pasta, things like quinoa, which is not only a great source of whole grains, but is also a complete protein. So if you're looking to go vegetarian or vegan, quinoa is a great option for you there as well. Vegetables, you want to have about 2.5 to 3 cups of vegetables in your daily eating habits. Getting a variety of colors of those vegetables not only helps to add variety to the way your bento looks, but also adds different vitamins and minerals and nutrients. Things from nature that have different colors typically have different balances of nutrients. And so if you get a variety of colors, you're getting a variety of nutrients also into your body, which is a good thing. All right, 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit, which could be it could be fresh fruit like pineapple or oranges or apples, all of which can easily be packed into lunch. Or it could be fruit juice. If you packed orange juice or cranberry juice or grapefruit juice, something like that, that would also qualify as your fruit component. And then about 3 cups of dairy, which doesn't have to be milk. That could be taken up with cheese or yogurt or any other dairy type products. Okay? And again, things like yogurt can then be paired with the fresh fruit, so you're kind of getting a little bit of the different recommendations and combining them together. So again, going back to that portion control, I just want to point out once again, let's see if I can get I don't think I have my camera set up here. Anyway, so you can all see right here, we have the kind of an example of a bento box here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 different compartments, and not all of them are the same size. And so you can use that to your advantage to kind of gear you to different portions, rather than, a lot of times we just kind of get a big helping of one thing and then maybe a little bit of something else. We have smaller compartments, and so you have a larger compartment that you would use for, say, your proteins, the next size down you use for your grains, and then the smaller compartments you could use for things like your yogurt cup or your vegetables or your fruits. Okay, so you can use that to kind of as a restraining tool to keep you from going too heavy on one of the items in your meal. Does that make sense? All right. Next thing is variety. Okay, you have all these different compartments. It kind of trains your brain to think about what are the different varieties of things I can put in my lunchbox. Have any of you been to Thanksgiving and you look at the Thanksgiving spread and you see brown turkey and brownish white potatoes with brown gravy and brown dressing and brown sweet potatoes, and it's just so brown? Can you imagine putting all of those things into a bento box like this? How boring that would look. And it is often said in the culinary arts that you taste with your eyes before you taste with your mouth. And so you look at it and it's just all one color, and it's just looks very bland and unappetizing. And so when you're thinking about what you're putting into your bento, think of different colors, okay? Like here, I don't have a whole lot of colors here, but we do have some bright orange carrots, the green celery, the white hard-cooked eggs. You can't even see them, but the black prunes, they kind of blend into the bento there. So think about when you're putting things together, some of the different colors that you can add. The red of strawberries or the yellow of pineapple, okay? Also think about different textures, okay? You don't want everything to be just kind of soft and mushy, you know what I mean? You want to have a balance. You want to have some things that are crunchy or crispy, crunchy of the raw vegetables, the crispness of crackers, the softness of the egg, the kind of the squishiness of prunes. there aren't too many things that are squishy in a good way, but some things are. And so think about that as you're putting things together in your meal, how the taste experience in your mouth is going to be, the different textures. Also think of different flavors as well. One thing we tend to do is we go toward convenience foods that are often very salty, okay? And by the end of it, your mouth is just all salted out. And so you want to get a variety of different flavors. You know, one thing about Japanese cuisine in general, and maybe sushi in particular, is that balance of sweet and salty and sour and umami and bitter, all of those things together. And so as you're deciding what items to put into your bento, think about those different flavor elements so that you're not heavy on one. Because again, by the end of it, you're just kind of overwhelmed and don't have a really satisfying feeling from it. Okay? And then preparation method. There's so many different ways that you can prepare food. That is, of course, if you're preparing, you know, if you have to do any cooking for any of the items here. So we have things like boiling or soft cooking, like eggs, frying, which you want to do obviously in moderation, and they don't always hold very well in a bento. You do have some things like, in the picture here, that's kind of a good example of what you'd consider a makamuchi bento. You have steamed rice, you have cooked egg, you can kind of see that in the top right. You have a piece of seared salmon with the skin still on. You have some raw vegetables, cooked vegetables. You have pickles. Who doesn't like pickles? That's another great option of a different preparation method. Obviously, you don't want everything pickled in there. But again, mixing in some different preparation styles to add variety and make your bento a little bit more interesting, which is going to make you want to eat it that much more. Okay? Planning ahead. One of the things about bento that should be an encouragement to you is learning how to plan ahead. You have 4 different compartments here. You want to think about what you're going to put in them, you know, a day in advance or maybe even a week in advance. And so again, when we're talking about preparation methods, if you're going to, let's say you're going to make some soft cooked eggs, it's not much harder to cook a whole dozen eggs than it is to just cook one. So you have the option. You can just cook one for tomorrow, or you can cook, you know, 6 or 7 of them and have them prepared for the entire week. And so planning out your meals in advance, maybe at the beginning of the week, so you can narrow down on the amount of shopping that you're doing and the amount of food preparation you're doing. Another thing to keep in mind is that you're going to be making food at home, chances are, a couple times out of the week, right? Doing some home cooking. Factor that into what you're going to be putting in your bento later on in the week. Know that, hey, Tuesday night I'm going to be making this. I'm going to make sure I make a little bit extra so that I can then put that into my bento box for Wednesday. And then that's one less thing that you have to worry about. All right? Does that make sense? Anything that we can do to maximize the time in the kitchen and get the most value out of it is going to be a benefit to you. Okay? Let's see. What haven't I covered in that? Leftovers, batch preparations. I'm going to escape out of here. Is the cheat sheet on the screen now? Everybody see that? Is it still on the... Oh, it's blue screen of death. How'd that happen? All right. And we'll just wait for just a moment. Sure why I decided to do that. All right. Let's try this, shall we? Any questions about anything as I've gone through things? Oh, that's why it's doing it. Okay. All right, you see something now?
Yes.
Yes, I love technology. Okay. This may look a little familiar to some of you. The health and wellness team here at Sumitomo provided you with some health and wellness cheat sheets and information on how to use bento in the packing of your own lunches. This is an example of one of those particular sheets. What I really like about this sheet, and if you no longer have it, I'm sure that one of the ladies here...
We can get it for you if you weren't here when you did it, or if you don't have it anymore. We can get you other copies.
We can get it to you. We have the technology, all right? So what I really like about this is that it breaks it down into the different food groups like we were talking about with the daily recommendations, and breaks down those different compartments into some different ideas of things that you can put together. So for example, proteins, you have chicken and beef, but also things like the eggs, I mentioned cheese, beans like chickpeas, which you can eat just as chickpeas alone or make into hummus. Pair the hummus with some fresh vegetables. You've got 2 for 1 right there. Edamame, I've got the black beans. And then carbohydrates, as we had mentioned a little earlier, trying to stick toward the whole grains, like whole grain rice, pasta, crackers like we have in here. You could pack oatmeal, cereal, mentioned that quinoa already on the sheet there. Fruit, like grapes, again, pineapples, oranges, apples, whole foods like that, like bananas that you don't even have to chop or slice or dice and do anything to, just throw it in the box with you. And then vegetables, or raw vegetables, or salad greens, or cooked vegetables. The possibilities are endless. And then again, you can't really see it, but at the bottom of that screen, there's actually some really interesting bento box combo ideas. And so there's some flavors, some different elements that go really nicely together to kind of help you, to inspire you, to give you some ideas of some things that you can put together. All right, so hopefully that'll give you at least kind of a jump start into how you can implement bento into your own life and into your own lunch packing, okay? We are just shy of 9:30 right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up, just in case we do have any questions or anybody needs to get back to the office. Again, my name is Chef Kibby. Cookinwithkibby.com is where you'll find me. It's Cookin with Kibby. There's no G in there. That was too many letters for Twitter for some reason. It wouldn't let me have that many letters. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you missed anything or want to go back and see more of this presentation or share it with somebody, we are live right now on the YouTube channel, and I'll be taking this footage and cobbling it together into more of a polished rendition of this show, get rid of some of those ums and uhs and what's wrong with my TV screen sort of things. But hopefully you got something out of this that will benefit you in this new year as you try to eat more healthy and maybe breathe some new life into your lunchtime eating. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the kitchen. All right.